Welcome, everyone. Today we are here with a very special guest, Peter Roth, and we had the pleasure recently to meet. And I'm sure to some extent, many of you have had experiences at one point or another where you've had soul recognition when you've met somebody. And this was the experience and how I had experienced Peter recently in New York because I was there for a conference and he walked by and I could instantly feel that soul recognition, which really is through frequency emanation. So we had, a brief encounter, got to talk there and connect afterwards. And so it's really great that you're here with us today, sharing about you, what you do, who you are, and that we get to connect further on all the different times and spaces that it feels like we may have woven together. So welcome, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to talk with you. Meeting you is quite remarkable because you're remarkable, and it's um, it's hard to miss how remarkable you are because you present yourself in your frequencies. You know, you are your frequencies,
Thank you.
and and that's great. I'm the opposite, where I hold very powerful frequencies, but in a way that isn't obvious. And I'm quite elderly, and my body, because of my high frequencies, my human body doesn't function that well. And so this lifetime has been difficult. I'm amazed that I got to be so old. I'm 83 now, but
You're not old.
I know that I have important work to do still using my frequencies. And
Right.
so,
Well, and that's a huge parallel, in many ways, of course, of what I felt since I was very small was the density and the energy and the biology of my existence being here, in a human body, to some extent, right? That holding these frequencies that we come in with is challenging to the human body. It's challenging to the energy field. It's challenging to the mind and all the integrations. I mean, really moment to moment, because when you're traveling, and this is just, of course, one example, but when you're traveling, say at night or to space or whatever it is, connecting, when you're coming actually back into the body, there is a huge differential, between coming back in and down and even all the way in, coming all the way into the body. And many people, at least my perception, they don't come all the way in the body when they're higher frequency. They go in and out because of that challenge, between the differential. So, but we've come here for such specific purpose that we're learning constantly how to do that, how to
yeah.
navigate that, right?
Well,
and
I think I've been in my body too much for the frequency, but I know that I have a very important work to do using my
right,
frequencies.
right,
So, because they're really for a greater purpose that humankind is coming into
right. Finally, yes.
and needs them. And we'll talk about it because I also have these signals that were given to me by Inner Earth.
Yes. Yeah, I'd love to dive into that. May I briefly offer an introduction before we start to dive into the inner earth? I know we want to talk about the Andara crystals and all of that.
Oh, right,
Also,
right.
that's fascinating as well. I'd love to share just a bit of an intro before we dive into that, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay. Just briefly, obviously, we're gonna talk so much more. He's a galactic elder and infuser of source frequencies, and also a creator of frequency fields, which is actually what I recognized you by, or through the energy emanation of your beingness when you walked by. I could feel the frequency fields and what they were expressing, so I recognized you right away. And I know you mentioned to me about being a 20th dimensional being originating in Orion. We talked a little bit about that at the conference, which I was also really feeling, as well as the tie into connection with Sirius, Arcturus, Andromeda, Vega, and I'm sure many other systems, because the ancientness of your soul is really, um, to me, feels obvious and very connected to many systems on what you're working on and working who you're working with. So to limit it, and it would be silly to say certain systems in my perception. But also, I have that you've helped seeding civilizations, developing mystery schools, and even shifting the Earth's axial energies, which actually ties in my perception as well to inner Earth. So I'm really looking forward to talking with you, because I do feel that stabilizing within the frequencies of being a high frequency being, assisting in these transformations that are happening, these transformatory, like hugely pivotal times we're in, and really being a stabilizer or anchor with the frequencies that you're offering, even if, like you were mentioning, it might, it's been through these waves and these layers of being on Earth, and at times they're challenging. However, the work being here and the beingness being here, emanating who you are, is really a magnitude. So it's an honor to have you here. So welcome. Oh, you're on mute still. you, you're on mute, Peter. Can you hear me?
Sorry, there
That's
was
okay.
noise going on here that I
That's
didn't was
okay.
afraid it would get on air. So I was um, so much of my life it's just been um, being what I call multidimensional, because I can always tap into all kinds of lifetimes, and not my own, but as well. I mean, I can easily tap into other people's lifetimes, and or even it's interesting because I'll do a class where some of my classes are where I look at ancient lifetimes of people, and I'm taken way, way back. And then some classes it's just recent lifetimes and different themes about lifetimes. But then sometimes I'll look at someone's lifetime and I'll ask for my guides and whatever, and I'll be told, no, no, we're not going to a past life. We're going to a future life for this person. And so I never know, because lifetimes are like that. We only need them to be sequential, but they're all really as one in the oneness field. So it's been an interesting life, and until it got even more interesting 2.5 years ago, because I felt very connected to inner earth for a good deal of my uh, adult life, and I wanted to visit them. And one night, all of a sudden, and a lot of these visitations happen when I'm in bed, and all of a sudden, like this one night, there are all these snapping noises around the room. What's going on? Why are all these snapping noises? And then I get chills, and then all of a sudden the bed starts to vibrate, and then I know there are visitors. That's like often how they announce themselves. There have been other ways that have been very colorful and interesting. But this one night, there were three people there, two men and a woman, who said they were from inner earth. And I said, well, why are you here? They said, well, we need you to visit us. And so we're going to raise your vibration, your consciousness vibration. So that will help you get down to us. So apparently there's a difference between my frequencies and my consciousness vibration, which has to do with the Hawkins scale, 1 to 1,000. And I knew I was at 270 to begin with, and that has to do with Andara crystal, which we'll talk about. And so I said, okay, very nice, thank you. And they said, we'll be back. Good night. And then the next day I was measuring my consciousness level, and it went up from 570 to 630. And I'm thinking, well, I guess they did something. They created something in me that brought it up. Later that day, it was at 680. The next day, it was in the 700s. The next day, in the 800s. And the next day, in the 900s. And it's been in the 900s ever since. And so they needed that. And I guess I needed it too. And so what does it mean if you're at that height of the Hawkins scale? And then I realized what the Hawkins scale is about. It's not like I can levitate now and walk through walls, and it doesn't give you this kind of magic. What it does is it tunes you in more to universal love. And that's really what consciousness is about. The higher the consciousness, the more tuned you are to that beautiful universal love. So, I've become much more discerning of how I manage my environment and all of that. And then they've been back. Since then, they've been back to visit me 95 more times. And so it's very incredible to have all these visitations that are different. Each one is different people, and they behave a little bit differently. One time they came and they early on, and there was basically one guy. I don't remember if any other people showed up with him, but he put me into an altered state. And all of a sudden I was heading out to my kitchen. It's like, okay, I didn't ask questions. And as I get to the kitchen to turn the light on, all of a sudden, instead of the light going on, there are all these colors and geometries flashing. And I get in the doorway and I look at the back of the kitchen where there's a window, which normally is covered over because I'm in New York City in the back alley kitchen. And the windows is lit up with colors and geometries flashing. And I'm staring at that. And all of a sudden, I'm back in my bed with this man from Inner Earth standing next to me. And I said, what happened? What did you just do? And he said, when you were looking at those colors and geometries, you were being given light codes. And that's why we did that. And then some visits later, some of those light codes opened up, and I was given incredible realizations and insights that were amazing. And so I've had different experiences with them. One time they put me into an altered state and took me to a party where there were drums beating and people dancing. There was music and with the drums, and it was amazing. And other times they would put me into my whole body into a vibration where every muscle would be shaking, and that would be fun. And since then, in these visits, I probably have had over 300 people visiting. And they're not all exotic people. I did have a visit one night, with 4 beings that weren't people. And I said, what are you? Are you from Inner Earth? They said, yes. Are you in form in Inner Earth? They said, yes. But what are you? They said, we're 12th dimensional. I said, well, tell me what you look like. I can't see that. I can't understand that. They said, we're undescribable. So you'll just have to experience us when you get to Inner Earth and see what it looks like to you down there.
So it appeared like you felt a sensation knowing the presence was there because you didn't like actually see. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, they were, you could tell these were high dimensional beings.
Right.
And then, and they also told me that they would give me a new energy body when I visit them, which I definitely need. And so there's a lot. Oh, and so they're going to teach me how they've embedded me with three signals. There was one visit where they embedded me with signals. And these are for humanity in the future when we need them. So they want me to come to visit them for that also. And another visit, I asked, okay, so when I come down there, how are you going to teach me how to use these signals? Is it going to be like a lecture? There'll be a teacher. What form will it take? And they said, it'll be a gathering. I said, well, so how will I learn to use the signals in the gathering? They said, you'll all be sharing light codes, and that's how you'll learn. So it's interesting. So the three signals, the first one is, I was told, is to protect humanity. And I asked more about what that means. And apparently it's for light workers. As ascension begins in more dramatic form, they'll be the first to find opposition to, you know, to be resisted by darker forces to keep them from advancing even more. And so the first signal is to protect them. And I thought that's great. And then the second signal is to assist in ascension. And the third signal, the only name they gave it was liftoff.
That sounds great. Liftoff. It's that's when you know it's time. Oh,
Who
you're on.
knows what else that means other than ascension? Uh,
Right, right.
and then I was told through a channeling, I've had channelings from different people where people from inner earth come through. And I like that. I had a channeling with a woman, Angie Hippel, who normally channels the Judah group. And she was going to do that as a favor to me, channel the Judah group. And then she got started, and all of a sudden she was interrupted by a guy from inner earth. And he said, well, I'm here just to reiterate to Peter a lot of what we told him. And
They want to
also,
talk to you.
also, since he's in New York City, when he starts using these signals, he can't go far from New York City because they're going to be sent to a ball of energy on top of the Empire State Building, and the signals will be emanating from that. So very, very interesting to work with these people. But it's not all magical in its interest, because the last visit I had were 8 people, 8 men who hadn't visited me before, which is kind of normal in recent times because I think I've become a tourist attraction to them. So these 8 men were visiting. I said, "How long are you going to be here?" They said, "Oh, for an hour." I said, "Well, what do you do?" And they said they run the local railroad station in Inner Earth in the city near here. So,
Like the tunneling systems or
well,
something?
there is a railroad. There are 120 cities, and there is transportation between them, and so they run a station for that. And it shows that not every being that visits is going to have a magical purpose.
Right. I mean, sometimes it's information or there's, something to exchange, but it's not necessarily what somebody may think.
Right, exactly. Well,
I think you said there was a point though, this must have been way previous to your beginnings of these visitations with them, that you said that they were telling you about the Andara crystal. Was that the same inner Earth beings or is
no,
that a different
no, that
location?
was a different, it's different. I, I've been getting visitations also from an intelligence from another universe. They're from a soundverse. This is what they tell me. They specialize in central suns. They're going to be coming here to work on our central sun, and they're, they have greater purposes in our universe and for us, and uh, and they're fascinating. And I asked them one time, why did you choose to visit me and give me the information you're giving? And they said, because of Andara, the energy of Andara. And what that is, that there are crystals that are Andara crystals that were discovered near Mount Shasta 25 years ago. And they're now considered the most powerful crystals in the world. Basically, the energy of oneness, actually. And so years ago, 25 years ago, I was the person who discovered them on a ranch owned by a woman named Lady Nellie. And she took all the credit for it and became a legend for the discoverer of Andara crystal. But fortunately, she sent me 25 pounds of it that once it got to my apartment in New York, were really altering consciousness, everything. I mean, it was like my body was just snapping around. And I've been living, in the early days, I was giving a lot of it away because it was so powerful. I just wanted to share it with people. And I didn't even call it Andara crystal originally. I called it Ethereum glass because it's made of glass. Because it came from a time on this ranch when there was a bottling company that went there during the gold rush to make whiskey bottles for the gold rush miners. And to make the glass for that, they found these powders around Mount Shasta that they didn't know were magical powders. So they made the glass from these magical powders. And then they went out of business and left a whole field of leftover glass on this ranch that I was the one who saw that they had the power and to tell the owner, these are special and you really need to do something with them. So apparently over the years, the energy of Andara has gotten into me a lot. And this intelligence from another universe recognized me for that. And that's why they chose me.
So that was this, you said it's a sound verse that.
Well, that's what they say. They're a sound verse.
Mhm.
So not long ago, they told me that they are going to send an inaudible frequency to 300 people on this planet that will then be emitted by these 300 people to participate in healing animal life on the planet in powerful ways because it's from them. And I said, well, how are these 300 people being chosen? And they said, because of an unusual nature of your astrology.
Oh,
There are
interesting.
only 300 people who have that unusual nature. And apparently I do too. So, um, so they said, then when we receive this, we'll be emitting these, this frequency. And I said, well, are we responsible for the animal life under the sea? And they said, no. I said, well, how are you going to heal animal life under the sea? They said, we've chosen 8 whales for that. So they have it covered. So, and being a sound verse, you can imagine that they have powerful sounds.
Yes. Well, you look at echolocation, for example, like the whales that are in the waters now, how that undulates continuously,
Right.
how the sonic tones do. And I was actually, I don't know if you felt this at all recently, but I was feeling that some of these other beings, these energies from like water planets are arriving and going to be arriving with different tones, different, like you could say hybrid in a way where they're, say part there was one I was feeling it was kind of like a whale and kind of like a um, what's the other one? I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden, but it's like basically a genetic blend of a whale and another being, but they have
And
very
dolphins?
um no, no, it was like, we were talking about beyond 20th dimension, but a lot of these aquafarians and aqua beings are water beings are beyond these number systems, right? Because of the sonic tones and the frequencies. Many are inaudible or they're really low, like really low tones that can assist in the transmutation and activation or the water molecules and all of these things that need to upgrade and change as well as we're all shifting and changing, because our water mass of the planet is huge, right? So, and I feel like a lot of these earthquakes, we talk about inner earth, earthquakes, mudslides, plate tectonics, all of those things are moving to create actual open space where these other beings can come in, down in and through and into these different gateways so that they can
I'm
help us.
so glad you know that.
Yeah, I can feel it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's, I mean, if you look at, I'm glad that you know that too, because a lot of people don't realize that, like, we look at animal kingdom, for example, whales and dolphins, they're from a different constellation star system. A lot of these, insects or, insect kingdom, animals, donkeys, etc., all these different beings aren't from Earth, they're
Right.
here for different with different frequencies and vast awareness that is for specific functions what they're bringing and bridging and anchoring and working and
Right.
wielding
And they're your primary beings on water, some of the water planets.
Yes, yeah. And it's making that space with these actual earth changes and in inner earth changes, the heating up of the temperature, the plates moving, the even with oil drilling, how oil drilling is moving the plates around, it's making open space for change, for arrival of who, not just what's next to come, but who's coming actually physically here so they can land or be or come in. As those inner earth beings are coming to communicate, come out and speak with those that are ready, that can, energetically hear and weave with them. There's certain people that aren't
Right.
obviously ready yet or may not be, but there's a cohesion and a reason for all these
What,
connections.
one time, the head of the local city near New York in Inner Earth came to visit me, and his name was Lar. And I learned about leadership down there because leaders aren't elected or even chosen. They just are because their frequencies are built for it. And so he was telling me that at some point in the future, when the density up here gets a little lighter, they'll be able to come up here for even short visits and and show what beings of pure love and light are like. And but they have to be careful because they don't want our society to start being devotional to them.
Right.
So they're only going to be here for a very short time, and they won't really be the speakers. People like me and others who can speak to them telepathically will speak for them, and then they leave, and we'll be able to, tell the public why they should appreciate them.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I think and I've actually felt communication to some extent about that recently, that especially for the beings that aren't humanoid, there doesn't want to be created a fear about something that looks different, or say it communicates differently, or, has a different active tone that people can comprehend, right? Or maybe a combination of all those things. And there's USA ambassadors, emissaries, delegates, all these different people that are here that can communicate through the frequencies and through the actual conversation telepathically with these other beings to bring the messages, the energy, and also the unity between the different groups and nations together, that through USA, the changeover, the transformation, where while people are trying to understand who is this, or what is this, or what does this mean, how is this relevant, well, they're coming to find out all these other things that are being revealed. They can have a physical representation that can explain and articulate what's going on with these different relatives, really, because it's kind of one of those things where people can't really comprehend a lot of these possibilities yet, or who has always been here, and all these other octaves this whole time, right? There's a lot for people to come to come to integrate and understand.
Yeah, we can't appreciate, the public can't appreciate any opportunities that are other dimensional. And yet, beings from all over the universe are more than third dimensional. And so we'll have to learn and aspire to be of higher frequency.
Yeah. Well, is that the role that you feel with certain things like the Andara crystal, is because they're basically anchoring and emanating this oneness frequency? There's a lot of other
Right.
things within the earth that are emanating, or
Right.
artifacts and all kinds
This
of
is
things.
just one of many opportunities that are going to be transforming. So I wanted to tell you another experience I had just because um, of being, I think, protected. Because I've had a number of falls because I'm pretty disabled. And and I was in Mexico a year and a half ago, and I slipped on the stone floor and I crashed directly onto my face. And nothing broke. It's the kind of thing that should have shattered my face, but it broke a lot of skin and there was blood on the floor and all that. But I I was fine, really, just heavily bandaged after that for the rest of the week I was in Mexico. But one morning, 5 days later, I was getting out of my bed and a voice said, "Lie back down and be still." And I've learned to cooperate with instructions. Um, there are many times when I've argued with it, doesn't pay off.
Don't do that.
Right. So I said, okay. And I laid back down and they shut my brain off, my mind. For 15 minutes, I couldn't think. I was aware I couldn't think, but I couldn't have a thought. And then at the end of about 15 minutes, that I was told, okay, we're done. And all of a sudden, my body went into full vibration, which has happened also with people from inner Earth. They can do that. These beings were able to do it. And it was so much fun. I love that when your whole body is shaking. And, as long as you don't get scared about it, I, I'm confident. So I just enjoy it. And then when it ended, I said, so what's going on? What was this all about? And they said, well, when you crashed onto your face, us, several of us beings from the 12th dimension, saw that you opened up some new channels in your third eye, and we've come to work on them.
Ah, interesting.
So who would think that crashing on your face is so positive?
And is that where basically where you are now with the inner earth that you're speaking about? Because you were talking about Shasta before and the Andara, but which is
Right. That's
different,
Telos. That's a different city of inner
right?
earth. I'm working, all the beings that have visited me are from the city in inner earth near New York.
And who are they? What is their like? Is it like a collective frequency? They have a
No,
name or
no, it's just a population of about 60,000 people. Um, they're mostly Aryan looking. They're about 8 feet tall. They live about 700 or 800 years. They're all of love and light. So it's a high frequency, and they don't want any visitors who aren't of that high frequency.
right?
And so that's why they've been working on mine also. Even though I come from a high frequency, they wanted me to have my consciousness level be the highest it could be. So I'm ready when they are.
You're ready as they are. You have the symbols already. So so
Well,
do,
yeah.
do you know what's next? Like what's the next step then
No, they
for
told
them?
me that at some point when I'm out walking in the city, someone will come up to me, not from inner earth, but will take me to a portal that I can meet inner earth people at, because they can't really survive in this dense atmosphere.
Right. Right. Especially New York.
Right.
It's more dense than a lot of other locations for sure.
Interesting that I've been in New York for so many years that I'm is where I do my work. And I guess because of my high frequencies, whatever it is in New York doesn't disturb the kind of work I do. So, I'm fine, other than a three-dimensional body.
What do you feel about now? I've been to New York several times. Obviously, I don't live there, but what I was really tuned into and feeling about you're talking about the Empire State Building earlier, the Statue of Liberty in the water and what's going on underneath the water with what is actually under the water. Do you feel those things where you are since you're so close to the Atlantic? Or you're not working with
No,
it?
because I think if I was too sensitive to those things, it would disturb me from living as normal as I can.
Right. To focus on what you're.
Yeah, because I have a three-dimensional family. I have kids and grandchildren, and so I live in outwardly. I have a normal life, except for my podcast and my school, and I've been teaching classes and all my clients. It's all about frequencies and all about higher dimensional work and etc. So it's so I have two. I'm kind of in two worlds.
Well, and you're not done yet. You have lots to do. So
I
yeah.
know. Excited.
Yeah, what's next for you now? Because you have the school, right? And I know I met you at a conference so I don't know if you do those kinds of things also where do you speak there at different events and things?
No, not too many. Just New Life
Okay.
Expo more recently. Uh,
Okay.
oh, yeah, there's an expo in New Jersey I'll be speaking at in March and having a booth at.
Oh,
Um,
lovely.
so, but I really um, on the internet. My school is heartriver.org, and I teach Monday night classes. I've been teaching them weekly for about almost 30 years. And I teach workshops on intuition and telepathy. And and with my podcast, I try to find all kinds of wonderful people like you. And although you're really unusually special to me anyway, because
Oh.
because we, there's so much we have in alignment. It's interesting because outwardly you're more obviously living in frequencies, and people look at me and they go, "Who's he?" And but that's fine. For some reason, my soul needed me to be here more indescript, less obvious, and that would allow me to do my work without interference. Obviously, there's some reason that's good for me that I'm not that obvious.
Yeah, there's always reasons why. So we sometimes discover later. We sometimes
Yeah,
discover why those choices or things were made later, right?
really. So I'm glad at my age I've learned so much about myself, and I've had so many amazing experiences with other souls, other dimensions. I even have a good relationship with my parents, who have both been long gone. My father has been gone for 65 years. My mother has been gone for 37 years. And yet they visit often when I need them. And I had an experience earlier this year when I was upset and I couldn't sleep at night, this one night. And I was walking around my apartment, and around 3 in the morning, I figured, well, I'm going to try to get some sleep, try to get in, get to bed. And as I was getting into bed, my father shows up and asks if he could lie down with me for a while. And of course, sure you can. How many people have a chance, adults, especially like my age, in their 80s, to be put to bed by their daddies? And I was, and it was the most beautiful experience. It's hard to explain. And so I'm fortunate that I have these awarenesses. I'm not a medium, but often I'll go to funerals, and the recent dead are people who I can connect with, talk with. And so people who know that about me and have funerals want to know how their recently dead loved one um, um, interacted with me and told what they told me and all that. And I'm so happy to share that. But I don't, not everybody's a medium, and I'm not really good with people who've been gone for a long time. Um, so we never know what'll show up. Um, Someone once called me and asked me if I do dogs. And I said, no, I don't think so, but who knows? And she said, well, our dog, she and her husband, our dog broke his leg. And I'm on the phone with her, and I don't know her. And I said, oh, you mean that right front one? And she said, well, you're right. And I guess you're supposed to help. So they brought this dog over, and he's sitting there in the cast on his leg. And I looked at him, I said, so what's up? He said, well, I had to break my leg because I'm really working hard to keep this couple together.
Oh,
And I
interesting.
just met them, and I had no idea that they were having a problem. So I told her what the dog told me, and they said, oh, that's too bad. We just signed our separation papers this morning.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh.
Poor dog broke his leg for nothing.
Yeah, you never know what the connection point is with our soul animal friends and how and why and what they're doing, what they're doing in our lives, right?
Right. And
Wow.
I didn't know I was an animal communicator until then.
Right. Yeah.
Not
Wow.
that I look for it, because,
Right.
I'm really here at my age. I'm really here to work with frequencies.
Well, do you want to share? I know that we're getting close to the time where you have to get going, but before we close, we're talking a bit about frequency fields. Now, when you say that, I understand that because I can see what's not seen, but kind of explain just to a bit about what ways are you working with the frequency field?
Knowing.
Right. Okay.
So what it is that the frequency, the energy really is my teacher. And so I'm receiving information so often that I'm just grateful for. So it's really because light is also language.
Yes.
And so I've learned in even because of my old broken up body that
Stop
I'm
that.
not here. Well, it is. I don't mind talking about it because I know that when I get to inner earth, it's going to be different after that. But so it's just not easy to live with right now. But it's just that I'm uh, I'm an intermediary of light, of the language of light, of the information that comes through, and of the awareness, the knowing. Um, it's all about knowing, and so light is language. You know that, and so I'm kind of this vessel who has these experiences because of frequencies, and I love that. And I don't put effort into any of it. Um, I just am a vessel.
Do you know what that looks like? I mean, you have some inkling of
Well,
this.
these signals, for instance, where and then the inaudible sounds from another universe, and and there'll be other opportunities that we don't even know about.
Right.
And so I'm fascinated by how the universe just shows up and introduces itself in so many ways.
Yes, I agree. And I also feel that a lot of that too, especially now that the energies are more open, is that those other opportunities are people that are connecting, that are sharing frequency information fields, light codes. Even our conversation here is a light codes. We're having this light exchange. And that's part of, in my perception, of course, part of these next steps of what's being anchored to see what will come next, because it's
Right.
exchanging a vast quantity of information beyond the words, through the dimensions.
Well, we think we're speaking in words, but we're speaking in meanings, and the meanings are codes.
Yes,
It's amazing how that works in the field. That's why telepathy works, because it works with codes of meaning, and that's what you transmit to people, and then they interpret it in whatever way their minds need to hear a language, but the language is only speaking to them in the meaning that it receives.
right.
Um, it's it's code, it's just vibrations that um, have a geometry to them, and um, and the information is in the geometry. That all meaning has geometric form, and so when you understand that, then you can allow geometric form to play so much bigger role.
Right.
You know what I'm thinking of? One time, years ago, when I was a kid, I had a neighbor, and he lived in the next house, and it was about 50 feet away. And he and I took tin cans, and we got a long string, and we put it in through each can. We had a hole in the bottom of each can, tied a knot, and then his bedroom was across from my bedroom, and we strung this cord tight with cans at either end, and we talked in them, and his voice came through loud and clear, and it was just a string. wasn't an electronic wire, it wasn't anything that would make sense.
Right?
So how does a string transmit a voice that sounded like my friend?
Right.
That was so magical. So life has mysteries that are beautiful.
Yes. And they're unfolding more and more every moment. We'll,
Yeah,
we'll begin to see so many things that we've really, I think, subconsciously, even consciously known, as being from these other planes and realms and experiences, geometrically, dimensionally. There's things that are filtering in that I'm seeing actually filter in through the physical plane that I remember and see in these other parallel realms, these parallel worlds and dimensions. I'm starting to see, you could say blurbs, but aspects of them implementing in the physical. So this will be a nice and fascinating wave of transformation, this next juncture, this transformational
right.
cycle. Because there's a lot of things that I'm seeing that are really interesting, plasma tunnels in the sky, or these tubes of light, in the clouds, and different visuals of energies trying to express themselves more, you might say, uh, visually, where they're like, oh, well, I'm not going to hide.
That'll be great when these other dimensional properties start becoming more apparent to
Yes.
us, third dimensional, to the public of third dimensional minds.
Yeah. It is happening now. I think some people have still got the blinders on to some extent, but it's so prevalent, at least here where I am, that it's undeniable unless people are just really not looking. Like it really is that it's that prominent, and that like consistent in many ways, consistent like daily. Like you can't say it's not because it's really obvious. So yeah, that's we're in it now. So we're definitely in it. It's going to increase as time goes by. You want to say time, but the energies continue to accelerate. So
That's great. Yep. What fun. And I'm so happy to know you as someone who gets it so clearly and embodies it and leads it. You're a leader of all of this.
thank you. You are as well. You've been uh, pioneering for long, eons. I feel like eon recognition of ancientness, to each other in those mirroring ways. Different but same. Same but different. So it's a real pleasure to, you might say finally, but finally reconnect with you here and share wisdom information. And I'm actually hoping that we see each other. Maybe another conference or something would be awesome because I think it's nice to collaborate, and I think it's great we're having this discussion too.
Right. Well, after I get to inner earth, maybe my body will be more apt to travel around.
Let me know how that goes, or I'll see you in space zipping around.
That's
Go, he's
right.
he's got a new body. He's good.
Well, we have to connect again anyway, just to be friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, would you before we go share where will you be? You said something about New Jersey. You'll be in next.
Oh yeah, that's the one. Uh, it's the I don't know. It's in Edison, New Jersey, at the convention center in March, and I forget, Awakening Oneness Fair, something like that. It's big. It's like you were at the New Life Expo, and this is like 5 times the size of that.
Oh, okay. I'm not
Really
familiar with
huge.
that one.
And yeah, I'm very happy to be there.
Wonderful.
Um, Maybe if people look at the New Jersey Convention Center calendar, they'll find it on there.
Okay.
But
Okay.
other than that, I'm on. I have a website, heartriver.org, and people can go to my Monday night classes and register. Everybody's welcome. And then also now and then during the year, I teach a 5-week webinar on consciousness and telepathy and intuition. And and then I have my podcast is Energy Stew, STEW, that you were a guest on.
Okay, beautiful. And again, I'll put that it's heartriver.org. I'll put that in the video description, and it's also called Heart River Center for Intuitive Healing, and then the podcast is Energy Stew, but I'll put that in the summary so people can find you.
Well, we recently changed the name to Heart River Center for Soul Growth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For so
And guiding you through intuitive awakening.
okay,
So
okay.
that's the it's not like we're promoting that much, but that's a new name we are using for Heart River.
Okay, I'll make sure and get that on there. And the heartriver.org is still correct, right?
Right.
Okay, and I found your Energy Stew podcast. It's on Podbean, but I'll put that on there also.
Yeah, energystew.podbean.com.
I love that.
And and people can email me at peter@heartriver.org.
Perfect.
Yeah. It's just been
Wonderful.
so wonderful talking with you. It's rare that people are so um, frequency oriented and knowledgeable as you are. That um, makes it so much easier and fun to talk with.
Likewise. Thank
Thank
you. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you soon, whether it's online or at some event. And I thank you so much for coming on. And I look forward to seeing what you do next.
you.
Yeah,
Likewise,
likewise. Yeah, true pleasure. Thank you so much.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. And a happy new year to you.
You also. You also. I'll see you very soon.
Great. Thank you.